The Sega Genesis is such a cool device. And no, I'm not a Sega fanboy, but just find this a very pleasant piece of equipment to play my old school retro games with. But that's not what I'm going to be talking about today. Today it's going to be fake Sega power with the Retroid. Yeah, it's going to be fake Sega power. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In today's video we're going to be doing a chit chat about the HD retro game 60-bit Retroid whatever thingy. The question remains, is this thing any good and would this be a fun replacement for your original Sega Genesis? So when it comes to the Sega Genesis, this thing has some really cool soundtracks to it. And that is the part that is completely messed up with a lot of clones. Today's video I just wanted to see if this fake one, the HD version of the Retroid, is going to be a fun replacement and having a built-in HDMI, or are we going to be needing to search for a different solution in, let's say, the future, because this is one of the maybe expensive ones you can pick up from AliExpress. Where this thing is an HDMI device, you can actually use this also on an old school, let's say, CRT if you want to, and I think that is one of the more appealing parts of this machine. But don't get me wrong, it's still not enough. Like, we're having all kinds of HDMI devices now, minis, emulation devices, but I think this is something you should pick up if you want to play original Sega cartridges. So one of the appealing things of these clone devices most of the time is that we're having all kinds of cool features. So I already said a couple of times HDMI, but some of them even have the option for all different regions. So you can just switch between. For example, with this one we're just having a very simple switch implemented. Yeah, you can see the connections over here at the back and the input for the power supply. At the bottom we're finding the MD Genesis Retroad Megadrive, and here we're having the inputs, but it makes no sense because here the input, yeah, is all fun and game, but it's all about this, the 7.5 volt 1 amp oven power supply. Let's see if this thing is even implemented in here. Yeah, there isn't power supply, but you know, it's a little bit of a downside that it's in 7.5, and the reason why, because when it comes to these devices, if you do have some problems, yeah, most of the time I think it's like 5, 6 and 9 volts, so that's kind of weird when it comes to the voltages. Then we're having the controllers. Oh boy, and I can tell you, I have seen a lot of, let's say, crappy controllers, and this is absolutely one of the worst. One of the reasons is just the way how this looks like. Look, the floating D-pad configuration, okay, but this is just ridiculous how bad this is. We cannot switch. Some of them even have the 1-player, 2-player switch. No, this is like 1-player controller and 2-player 2 controller, and if one of them gets broken, there is no way of replacing them. So yeah, when it comes to that, this is absolutely complete garbage, an HDMI cable, and that's it. So let's hook it up and let's do a quick overview of the Sega. So what I think is kind of cool that they did implement, like with the original one, then not a reset and the original slider. No, they implemented an slider for the headphone jack, because it also is over here. So that's kind of cool when it comes to that. And yep, we do have 2 original Sega ports, and we are going to be using them in this video because the original controls are really bad. But how about the mold itself? This thing is not a one-on-one replica, so this thing does have some minor changes to it, and I think it's also particular when it comes to, let's say, the technical standpoint, and not in a good way. So plugging in a game is going to be the same configuration, the same way how you're going to be doing it, but you can just hear and feel this is just completely different quality. But how can you pull it out? Yeah, that's not going to be the same easy way with an original Sega. And oh man, if you're going to be getting yourself like a homebrew game like this, you're going to be putting it in. It's even sometimes getting even more difficult than with an original game. And I think that has to do with the thickness of the PCB. So that's one of those things that you're thinking like, yeah, and was absolutely an epic fail. We do have the cover, but there was no option for, yeah, a Sega CD. Okay, so and it seems to be that some PCBs are even loose in the inside. But yeah, where the mold is kind of cool and similar in some parts, yeah, it's unfortunate that we cannot use the Sega CD or the 2D2X. Nope. But let's put the batteries in. We're going to be needing 2 of them. Let's see, where's my second one? Second one is over there. If this thing is doing anything, yep, there we go. The LED is actually going to be starting to blink. I'm going to be moving the cursor of, or the D-pad, or whatever you want to call it. But let's plug this thing in. And oh man, I really hate those freaking screws, seriously. And the reason why, because you always need to find yourself a screwdriver. But the thing is, we're going to be booting them out first, and let's check it out. what's going to be happening. Is this thing comes with a built-in multi-game card, and does anything happen? Yep, that it is. So this thing comes with 170 built-in games. So that is kind of cool. But are they like a real 170 games or just double games? Wow, even in alphabetic order. So that's not bad at all. But let's zoom in and let's do a quick overview of a couple of them. So let's start off with number 1. And yeah, we do have a lot of different titles. Batman, moving over here, Batman Revenge, Battle City. Okay, wait, Battle City. Let's boot it up. Is that the Battle City? Okay, I never knew this thing was freaking ported to the Griggs. Okay, never knew they were ported to the Sega. But this is the same guy who actually made the Flash card, if I recall it correctly. Yeah, this is just actually, this is just the Famicom version. Okay, that's kind of cool. But let's reset it and go back to the list itself. So there are all kinds of different titles in here. The configuration, oh, the controls are so horrible. Battletech, Battletoads. So I think Battletoads was actually like one of the Sega Genesis, but also the 8-bit, but that's not an 8-bit version. Yep, the list itself is quite remarkable. A lot of good games. We do have like some weird stuff like Sonic Eraser, but we don't have Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I'm guessing. Let's see, but the let's say the list itself is absolutely not bad. No Street Race number 3, but yeah, that's forgivable. Or at least I think it is. One of the things I did notice when actually booting up the previous game, that I had this problem that the audio itself was not very loud. Let's see, is it going to be in the same situation in the normal game? Okay. The sound is completely off, I can already hear it. And that is a little bit of a downside. Can I crank it up? No, that does not do anything. So there's a little bit of a downside when it comes to playing this, let's say, device, that the audio is quite low. I'm going to be switching to a game itself to see if that is going to be working. Where I hate the chip feel, the games are still playable. My particular way going to be moving around, yeah, that's not bad at all. We're not really want to use this controller for fighting games, but there's something going to be trying out later on. So let's move on to the other test. There's no, let's say, quick load, quick save of whatsoever. It's not like that fancy. It's just with a built-in multi-game card. But let's plug in some games and let's see what we can actually do with this thing. So let's start off with the dual card. Let's push this thing in. Also, sliding in is absolutely a nightmare on this thing. And let's see if we can even get both of the games recognized, because this is one of those let's say, general problem with this, let's say, device. Okay, so that seems to be working fine. So that is absolutely awesome. Save function seems to be working fine. Let's get into the game. I don't see any weird thing going on the screen. So where we do have the option, different regions, the unfortunate part is that we don't have any aspect ratio option. So we're going to be having always like the 60:9 mode. So that's another thing that we're going to be needing living with. So when it comes to playing some Sonic, that is absolutely cool. So let's plug this thing out. Let's be very gentle. Let's get into a multi-game cartridge. Of course, there is already a multi-game cartridge built in. It's, by the way, a really funny one. With the weird shenanigans of the instant cheat mode. So we don't need a Game Genie when it comes to that. But so far so good. Menu seems to be working fine. We can actually boot up the game like Bonanza Brothers. Oh, that's beep 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 beep. But visual-wise, I'm going to be looking into at the screen itself. You can just actually see that there's no weird things going on. Everything seems to be working fine. So visual-wise, this thing is quite good. So far I can just see on there. But it would be fun to do a side-by-side comparison later on with some other systems. Next up, the Ultimate Mortal Kombat Trilogy cartridge. I completely mispronounced that. But that seems to be working. It's kind of weird, like there is a kind of a delay in, let's say, the game when you're going to be booting up. It will take a lot of time for actually getting something going on the screen. That's kind of weird, because you didn't see even, like, say, the title screen or whatsoever. But also this seems to be working fine, and that is just great. And I think that's one of those really appealing things, because where the audio is absolutely horrible, it's kind of cool that we do have like a support of many different let's say, different kind of games now. I just wanted to see if we can actually use the controller for some shooting moves. Also, the 6 button has been configured like it should be. Yeah, there we go. Next up, the Everdrive, and that seems to be working fine. Did notice that the signal comes way faster with this particular cartridge. Let's boot it up, or at least, yeah, I want to boot it up. So I already loaded up the Sonic 3 Knuckles. Yeah, this also seems to be working fine. But with stuff like virtual racing, there are almost none of these freaking devices can actually play this game. It is a single game, but if you're a big fan of it, you're going to be disappointed when it comes to that. Yep. And the next part I wanted to do actually is just to see how it is when it comes to, let's say, the comparison with different kind of devices. So let's jump into that. Conclusion of this thing is that it is a really cheap solution, but if you have no console whatsoever and you still want to have something that looks authentic to the shell itself, this can be a very interesting option. Let's give you a side-by-side comparison with an original system. In my main review I also did a separate side-by-side, and I think the biggest difference what you're getting, not only like 16-bit and that kind, there's no Sega logos on here. I think when you're looking at the depth where you're going to be putting the cartridges in, so you cannot use a master system converter, but it looks kind of cool because it looks kind of similar to original Sega Genesis or Megadrive. And of course the most expensive one nowadays, unfortunate, Analog stopped making these things. I wish in the future they will bring out more of these Sega thingies, because this is a super high quality product. You even have the option for a Sega CD add-on if you want to, and FPGA technology is absolutely spot on with the original one. So if you're going to be comparing this with the original system, yeah, you can just see visual wise, but this is absolutely an amazing and maybe the best solution out there. So both of them, if you want to have the authentic Sega sound and visual, these two are actually the best one. However, when you're looking at the way you're just playing and yeah, you're looking at the form factor, this thing is unique in its, let's say, form factor itself. But yeah, the price point now, because they're not going to be manufactured anymore, you need to go to the scalper jungle to find one, and they are crazy expensive. And that's a fact. But so many different solutions out there. Let's do a side-by-side comparison, visual but audio-wise, to give you an idea what can you actually expect when you're going to be doing a side-by-side comparison of every single device. So let's make it interesting by doing a side-by-side comparison with a lot of games. In this part we're going to be doing the visual but also the audio quality comparison. And when you're going to be scrolling through the games, you can already notice some difference. Unfortunate, my Sega console was set to 16:9, so we do have widescreen shenanigans, but for the visual and audio part it's not going to make any difference. I just wanted to see how the colors and everything is. And already going through a couple of the Sonic games on the systems, I noticed some things. How is the quality, and when you're going to be putting them side by side, how bad is, for example, the Chinese Sega AliExpress machine? So with the Retroscaler HDMI compared with the Retron HD console, you can just see a huge difference when it comes to the colors and everything else. So where the Retron HD console does look quite good, so when it comes to the color palette it's completely different, and the Retroscaler HDMI utilizes the original colors of the Sega system. But in the end, when you're looking at both of the clone consoles, think about the Retron HD console and the China HDMI console. Here you can see side by side that the colors are almost identical to each other. Where we had, let's say, some difference with the original system, it's quite interesting to see. So let's put the analog against the Retroscaler. To make it even more interesting, the Retroscaler HDMI with the original Sega against the analog Sega. We can clearly see with Street of Rage 2 that the analog Sega is so much more colorful and vibrant. It's absolutely amazing to look at, where the Retroscaler looks a little bit dimmed when it comes to the colors. But this is more like a personal preference. What do you like more? So now we're going to be seeing all of the, let's say, pictures side by side. You see a lot of differences. However, so now we have seen the visual part. How about the audio? Because there also we're having a lot of difference when it comes to, like say, the retro scaler, the analog, but also the clone systems. Visual-wise, there's a lot to say. I already mentioned that before, but audio-wise, we do see a lot of difference there. And also, there's a lot of difference between the retro scaler and analog Sega. And it's kind of interesting to see, but of course the analog Sega has just a superior sound when it comes to all of these devices. So when it comes to the Sega Genesis, playing it on a CRT, don't mind the old school, let's say, black and white colors. This has simply to do because this is a PAL region only, like CRT. But I'm going to be looking at it, like the image quality, it's quite nice. But the downside is that we have no way of getting the audio to work. And that's a little bit one of those many things that happens with these Chinese devices. But it's absolutely a massive disappointment that I have no, let's say no audio itself. And there's a little bit of a downside. The black and white is just a TV, and this is just a minor problem because this is a PAL TV, and I have no, let's say, other TV laying around because CRTs nowadays are not like easy to find, especially here in my country when it comes to different kind of, let's say, support of different kind of regions. But in the end, it's pretty cool that we do have the option actually for playing all kinds of, let's say, game systems, you name it. It's absolutely awesome to just see that we can have a system that is compatible with all kinds of different, let's say, cartridges. But if you're thinking, hey, you can just actually plug in the Sega 32X, yeah, it does fit, but it doesn't make any, let's say, connection with the port in the inside because of the mold. Where I don't like this controller, I did play throughout the video with it because it was decent enough to just play some games. Would this, let's say, Sega Genesis from China the ultimate experience? No. Particularly looking at the audio, the quality, it's not there. But still, maybe it's still one of the best ones out there when it comes, let's say, the form factor, just nostalgia feeling. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, and what we're going to be doing is making a very cool thumbnail. Yep, like that. And it's going to be clickbaity. Yeah.